Hello, everyone. I'm Doug Campbell-John, and welcome to Revenue Renegades. I am excited to welcome Neil Weitzman, the founder and CEO of Weitzman GTM, as well as the founder of Porch, which is a great community for immigrant entrepreneurs. So, Neil, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Doug. Super excited to be here and excited to talk to you for a little while today.
So, we always like to start with founding stories. Tell us, I guess, first of all, like, what do you focus on in Weitzman GTM? And tell us a little bit about the founding story of Porch.
Okay, you're making the first mistake of letting me talk too much right off the gate, right off the bat. You're gonna have to cut me off. So yeah, Weitzman GTM and Porch. I'll try to keep it quick here and short. Weitzman GTM is my fractional CRO GTM advisory business. Probably the coolest, most fun I've had in my long career. Grew up doing lots of different things, but I wake up every day blessed and honored to, have founders trust me. And I don't take that lightly to help them build their business and raise their babies as, as a founder would think of it as their baby. So I love doing it. I'm a fractional CRO and a GTM advisor. I'm sure we'll dig into that a little bit. So I'll leave it there for now. And then on the Porch side, Porch is a very special, different type of mission, but a very, very special part of my life for various reasons. One is I co-founded it with my son, who is not only the best partner and co-founder anyone could ask for, but it's pretty special to be doing that with a family member. Happy to talk more about that and that journey too. And Porch, like you said, is a club for immigrant and international entrepreneurs, and very, very close to my heart. And Canada and the US with all the stuff it's going through right now around immigration. And whichever political side you're on, I don't care. I believe that both countries need immigrants. How you do it and the support we give them is where the question should be. And that's what Porch does is tries to help immigrant and international entrepreneurs be a little happier, a little more successful, and make their lives just a little easier because again, Canada and the US don't always make it the easiest, and that's something that I'm pretty passionate about.
And when you say both countries, you're based in Toronto, so you're talking about folks who are coming
Sure.
into either
Yeah,
Canada or the US. How big
yeah.
is the community? How big is Portugal?
It's only about 500 or so members. We count differently depending on sort of the nature of the questions. About 500 members that have
Sure.
applied and signed up and been accepted. But our audiences, if you're a marketer out there and you think audiences and reach, then it's many, many, many times above that as we run events and we have thousands of people come to our events over the last couple of years. We have a newsletter that goes out to 1,500 ish plus people. But our core membership is quite small,
Okay.
and on purpose. Frankly,
Yeah.
we are really, really focusing on quality over quantity. It's not a revenue driving thing for me or for Hunter, my
Right.
co-founder and son. We do it because we're trying to make an impact. And the reality, as many of us know, is it's a lot easier to make an impact with 5 people in a room than 5,000 where you're
Right.
trying to impact. And so we're focused on that.
I love that mission. And then tell me a little bit, like, so for our listeners, how should they think about Weitzman GTM? Kind of what stage do you typically get involved with? What kind of work are you doing versus a full-time CRO or other folks they might have on staff?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a great question. And I know there's nowadays maybe more than ever, there's a billion opinions on the fractional world, and we could dive into that if you want, but maybe it's opening a can of worms. At the end of the day, if you take away the word fractional, I feel like what my job is to help a founder, in your case, Doug, running and building incredible company coffee. Is to not that you're going to hire me or nor that you should, because I know you know a lot of the same things I do, but as a hypothetical example, is to help the founder solve certain problems. Whether you call it fractional or GTM advisor or consultant, to be honest, I don't really care. These are labels. They each have very different models as what an engagement model might look like. But at the end of the day, my job is to help you solve certain problems. And for me, that's mostly on the GTM and revenue side of the ledger. And so those problems might go for an early stage founder from, what is my go to market strategy to what are, I need to hire a team. What does that team look like? What's the structure? What does good look like? How do we hire great talent to scripts, call frameworks, sequences or lack thereof, any number of obviously GTM plays that you might run. These are all things I'm focused on and working on with different founders. And sometimes it's maybe the hardest job of all, which is helping the founder get out of their own way. And I don't say that disrespectfully because we all have pros and cons.
Mhm.
We all have strengths, and sometimes the founder's strength isn't go to market or sales or marketing, especially if they're a product or technical founder. That might be the case, and I'm there to help and coach them through that. And I'm there as a friend, not an enemy, and so I could give direct and honest feedback. And I love it. I love it. It's mostly early stage companies based on what I just said, obviously. I'd call it early stage slash small businesses. I happen to work with a lot of businesses that you would never call a startup. They might even be around for 30 years,
Mhm.
but it's a changing world and a changing market. And in many ways, those small businesses still are acting as a startup from a sales and marketing perspective, or they need to relearn all the things that maybe worked 20 years ago, clearly aren't working today. So I get brought in for small businesses quite a bit as well.
In those roles, do you actually carry a bag or do you actually have, is there commission, as part of that structure? So interests are aligned?
Yeah, there can be. I have done that, but and I've heard of a lot of people doing that. I don't generally skew in that direction, and I actually
Mhm.
try not to. Just, w you know, very similar to me, I don't think a CRO should get a commission for every sale.
Yeah.
I believe when you're at that level, you should be thinking long term, and not trying to, like, close this month and put your all your deals in this month when it could be the right thing to wait and push that out in the various ways. And so I generally have a kind of a retainer type of model. Once in a while, there's some kind of bonus put in there. And generally, it's not carrying a bag. That would be probably, Doug, the only thing that I would say is different than full-time regular CRO. If you
Got it.
said to me, Neil, tell me what this looks like, I'd say, Doug, I want you to think of me as your CRO. I am your partner. You can
Mhm.
call me anytime. I'm there. I want you to pick up the phone whenever you have a question or a thought. Let's brainstorm, et cetera, et cetera. The one difference is I'm generally not carrying the bag. You're not
Mhm.
giving me a quota.
Yep.
And you generally don't want me on those calls because I'm not here every day all the time.
Right.
Plus, my name's against 5 other companies, and that sometimes is a little could be a little awkward. So,
Got
that
it.
would be really the main difference that CEOs need to get their head around. But they're generally not calling me to be their salesperson.
Right. Right.
They're calling me because they need to figure out what does the salespeople look like, smell like, act like, and help them do that.
Got it. Right.
Yeah.
This is just great framing for me and for the listeners to think about the kind of the space as well as your specific firm. So, I was going through before this on a number of your LinkedIn posts recently, and we talked you talk a little bit about kind of founder branding, personal branding as kind of a core sales strategy. I've done that obviously. Uh, Probably more actively recently, probably in the last like 6 months or so,
Yeah.
and dreaded it at first, but I've kind of come to enjoy it. It's been fun, but when you're working with organizations, how does that scale beyond a kind of the founder themselves to, when you're thinking about a larger sales team where not everybody's got maybe that kind of, um, you know, personal brand or charisma or whatever you want to call it.
So, it's a great question. I'm very passionate about this, maybe to a fault. Um, that's kind of sometimes my weakness is I think I kind of too siloed in my thinking sometimes. That said, let's assume we're talking about a company that is kind of B2B. Um, for that matter, even a lot of B2C companies are starting to use LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And when I think personal branding, my head just goes to LinkedIn, Doug. I mean, there's obviously
Yeah.
other channels and other formats and so on, but in a B2B world, I think kind of the default for me anyway. I feel so strongly about this now but even it's been growing that one, if the CEO is not doing their best to create their own personal brand, and it's obviously as a founder, especially connected to their company, and
Mhm.
without going into all the details of the best ways to do that, in my opinion, is you're literally leaving money on the table. It's like, why are you spending 10, 20, whatever you might be spending on kind of paid advertising and resources if you're not doing that. Full stop. Like you're just wasting opportunity, in my opinion. Now, we both know it doesn't happen overnight. These aren't like you can just do,
Mhm.
Doug can do his first post as CEO of coffee and all of a sudden he's going to get 1,000 leads in one post. But there's no doubt in my mind, if you do it well and you do it consistently, it will start to benefit your business.
Mhm.
Um, I have no doubt of that. Um, I believe so strongly in it that I believe the whole executive team should be doing it. And frankly, for that matter, anyone who is a frontline employee for sure.
Mhm.
I also believe so deeply that I would not hire anyone these days who wasn't passionate about that and dedicated to
Mhm.
that. I have hired people who would say that they're all on board and they're going to do it, but we all know change is hard, and sometimes people, you know, haven't made something like that a habit, and then someone like me comes along and tries to coach them and convince them that LinkedIn's really important, and let me help you show you how to benefit that for your own career and for the company. But not everyone picks that up or necessarily agrees. I believe that's a huge missed opportunity, and if I'm hiring a salesperson today, they need to be good on LinkedIn, period. Full stop. That's just like, why wouldn't I want that to bet? Because I think if you do that as well as all the other skills, you're going to be significantly better than someone who's not doing it.
So if somebody's not already, if you're recruiting salespeople and they're not already active on LinkedIn, that would be a disqualifier for you, or is that something where you would say, "Listen, this is something I expect," and they seem like they're willing to be coachable on that and change?
So I'm hiring right now for one of my clients, and it
Mhm.
says right in the job description, you need to be active and present on LinkedIn, period.
Mm.
And I can check that in 2 seconds when you put in your application by looking at when's the last time you made a comment or did a post
Right.
or how many followers do you have. And I don't really care if it's 5,000 or 10,000 or even 1,200. It's
Mhm.
less about that. It's more about activity,
Right.
right? If you haven't done a post ever or in the last 3 years and the only comment you've ever done is congrats to your friend Bob, then
Mhm.
I don't consider that active on LinkedIn.
Right.
And it is possible that I can hire that person and convince them that they should be doing it and coach them. Of course, it's possible.
Mhm.
But if I have two people in front of me and they're pretty equal, and one's really, really, really active, and I can see they get it and they're trying their best, and the other has never done it, it's pretty easy for me to make a decision, all other things being equal.
And do you give them any specific guidance about what to post in an organization, or is just like, "Hey, post what's personally relevant for you." You're a representative of this company, so obviously keep that in mind, but, you're building your personal brand as well.
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, if it was my company versus the clients that I have, I
Mhm.
obviously abide by, the what me and if you were the CEO, you and I would chat about how we would want to coach the team. And,
Mhm.
we'll see if our opinions agree. If it was fully 100% my opinion, then yes, I would say this is your personal LinkedIn profile.
Mhm.
You get to decide what you put on there. I'd like to talk with you and give you some ideas and thoughts on things that might make sense,
Mhm.
that will help both you and the company because we should be on the same page as what your goal is. You want to grow your brand personally and help the company because that's going to make you more successful. So our goals should be aligned. And I even try my best to coach them on, even if you weren't doing this for the company, I still highly recommend you should be doing this for yourself.
Right.
If you win a lottery tomorrow and leave this company, or you decide you don't like working here, doing what I'm coaching you on here is only going to help you and give you a better career in the future. It might help you get your next job.
Right.
So I come from it both like how am I helping them personally, but also of course by doing that they're helping the company because I want them to grow their profile and who they are and their brand, and hopefully they'll stay with us for a really really long time. And
Yep.
therefore those two things come together and help each other.
Makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about immigrant entrepreneurs because I think that obviously there's cultural stuff in terms of a maniacal focus on revenue in the sales organization as you would expect. There's a lot of communication styles that are different here. There's also kind of a certain attitude or lack of stigma around failure. How do you
Sure.
find like the differences when you're working with these international entrepreneurs who are coming to Canada and the US?
There's a lot of differences. And especially so our club focuses mostly on international immigrant entrepreneurs. They could be at different stages of their journey.
Mhm,
Some of them who join Porch are very new to Canada or the US, like literally on their way or just arrived.
mhm,
And in other cases, we have entrepreneurs that have been here for years and years and years. Obviously, the stage of their company might vary as well as to how we're supporting them and what their challenges are. So these things, you know, vary greatly. Someone who's been here 5 years and has a company at 3 million ARR is different than someone who arrived here a week ago, all by themselves, and is
mhm,
just trying to incorporate their company.
right.
Very different situations, and um, we seem to be helping the most, as you might expect, the newer entrepreneurs and
Mhm,
the newer immigrants, because that's where, as of course we would all believe, is where most of the challenges are. There's two buckets of organizations that help immigrant entrepreneurs. One is like, let's call them just accelerators and incubators. And there's not many accelerators and incubators focused on immigrants. But of
mhm,
course, depending where you are, many of them have many immigrants and high percentages of immigrants in their programs.
right.
Um, and those are wonderful. Like any business, Doug, there's great accelerators and there's terrible ones. And,
Mhm,
you got to be careful for sure. And the other side is like traditional immigration support services. A lot of these are charities or not for profits. Sometimes they're government funded, sometimes not. And they're there to help in many different ways. We saw this gap of people who were there to help specific immigrant entrepreneurs on the personal side of the journey. What I mean by that is there's a million accelerators or 4 billion people in the world. I'm very dramatic in my numbers here. Um, that's going to help someone learn how to do a 3-minute pitch, right? You
mhm,
can probably chat GBT or Google search that and get 5,000 resources and pitch decks in 2 minutes on how do I do a small pitch if I'm trying to raise money.
mhm,
And that is prevalent and is there for them. What they didn't need is another person like me saying, let me show you how to do a 3-minute pitch, right? That's not a gap. There's a billion people helping them. But where there is a gap is helping them do the basic things that many of us take for granted. How can you focus on doing a 3-minute pitch if English isn't your first language, you're having a challenge opening your bank account, you can't get to the pitch because you can't figure out how to get a driver's license. Uh,
right.
there's all these things of how to live happily and successfully in a new place comes before how do I do a 3-minute pitch to try to raise some money. You
Got it.
you just can't do one without the other. And we felt there wasn't the necessary service and support and love there for immigrant entrepreneurs on those things before. I like it. A new accelerator seems to pop up every week, and the first thing they're doing is we're going to teach you sales, marketing, and how to do a 3-minute pitch. Like,
Right.
great. But they're not even at that point, a lot of these folks. And so we're really passionate about that. That was a huge gap. We're getting great feedback on it. And it's also not rocket science. How do
Right.
you teach someone who's been in the country for 3 months how to get a driver's license? Well, you don't need 47 websites and high tech. You just
Mhm,
need someone to ask the question and someone who cares enough to answer. Say, hey, Doug, I've been through that, man. I'm happy to just walk you through how to do that. Let me show you where to go and what to do. And that's all it takes. And that was missing, right? Government, both Canada and the US, thinks the way to solve that is why $4 million in crazy websites and 76 clicks to figure out how to get that. And it's not, it's just love and caring.
that's great. That's great. That's a fantastic resource and, such a crisp definition of the gap that you're filling, and thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no,
Um,
yeah.
let's talk a little bit about, so the interesting, position you're in as a fractional CRO is you kind of parachute into these multiple companies, and you get to start to see, pattern recognition, for things that are happening.
Yeah.
What do you see as some of the most common blind spots when you in these leadership teams when it comes to revenue and revenue growth?
Wow, there's a big question. Yeah, and to be fair, I think our discussion on this might have been different 3 months ago than it is today and 6
Yeah,
months ago. I mean, we both know, especially knowing what you're doing, it's changing so damn fast, it's hard to even keep up. Um, which maybe I'll touch on that first as the biggest blind spot.
sure.
And I'm not even sure it's the word revenue blind spot so much as just blind spot in building, which is change management, which is the ability to learn and change and see what's going on out there. I'm constantly talking again. Some of my companies that I work with are small businesses,
Mhm.
which I'm going to be I'm going to generalize a lot here, which is probably unfair to some people, but some small businesses who have been around a long time have founders who have been doing the same thing for a long time.
Yep.
Whereas a startup like yourself, you're just building. I'm going to assume or make a generalization that someone like you, Doug, is much more attuned to the news, what's going on, learning, building, all the tech, et cetera, because that's what mode you're in, irrelevant of who you are, where you're from, your age, etc. Um, the small businesses, to some degree, are in a bit of a mode of, hey, we've been doing this for a long time. We've been okay. And maybe they bring me in for various reasons. Let's hypothetically say it's because they've decided they can now do better for whatever reason. And they want to figure out how to improve. And so one of the blind spots is they don't know what they don't know. And sometimes change is very hard. And sometimes it's not a cliche as people are stuck in their ways.
Mhm.
And you can teach an old dog new tricks, but it is hard at times.
Yeah.
It is hard, and I feel I'm very good at that, but I'm not 100% successful all the time, that's for sure. I can only do so much. Um, and so that would be one of the blind spots is that ability to work, on the business versus in the business for a founder, the ability to open your eyes and your ears sometimes to new ideas and not even just say, "Yeah, I'm open to it," but being willing to take that next step to test it. A lot of people like say the words, but don't actually go through with execution of trying new things. And today, there's so much, of course, we need to test and learn to see if it can be better than what we were doing yesterday.
Can you give us an anecdote to kind of
Yeah.
bring that, like give us an example of like that our listeners could say, okay, that's something that I could go try myself. Of like you've come in, you've been like, okay, there's a founder who, might be a small business person, doesn't have that, openness, let's say, to new things, and you're like, okay, we're not going to boil the ocean all at once, but let's get you started with trying this one thing. What's an example of
Yeah.
something?
Sure. A great and timely example, of course, let's just use the word which is to some people very controversial and to me not at all, is the world of like AI SDRs or AI BDRs, whatever you want to call them, AI outreach systems.
Yep.
Um, and that would be one that is very close to my heart. I'm testing with various clients of mine. Um, Even so far as saying for one of my clients that I would pay the bill for it to get them to test it.
Right.
And if it worked, then they would pay me back. And if it didn't, fine. Hopefully, I've taught you something.
Right.
Um, that's how passionate I am about these folks trying new things. Now, I can't look anyone in the eye, and I don't know if anyone can these days, and say, this AI BDR tool is 100% going to work.
Right.
Um, However, you can't look me in the eye and tell me, Bob, this BDR we just hired is 100% going to work
Right.
either.
Right.
You can't.
Right.
And everyone forgets that. Every time I do a post or I talk with anyone about the stuff that I'm trying and testing, everyone's like, "Prove to me it works." I'm like, "I can't." Like I'm testing it and I'm happy to share. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Um, but people are not perfect either, and neither is the AI yet.
Right.
Um, I don't know if the AI ever will be perfect. That kind of excites me and scares me at the same time.
Mhm.
Um, but I sure as hell am willing to try it and test it and learn from it. And I know for a fact that any client I work with who is willing to go down that path with me, we are going to be smarter and better and more successful 60 days from now, whether or not that tool works or doesn't work, because it's going to help us in so many ways. And I do believe that a lot of these tools can work in the right way used properly. It's like you put a I don't want to use a weapon analogy. You put a tool in someone's hand, and if they use it properly, it has a good chance of working. And if you act like an idiot and spam the world with it, then it's not going to work well.
Right.
Um, it's like anything, and so I'm really excited. That's one example, Doug, that I'm doing a lot of work with. I just got off a call this morning with a client where we were playing with and building a campaign in AISDR. The company actually is a tool we're using called AISDR.com. And we were in there building a tool, and I was part of that. Like, let's try this and let's test this. Let's run it for 2 weeks and see what happens. And then we'll come back and optimize. So I find that stuff super exciting and a lot of fun. And of course, all revenue related.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot of controversy in the AI, SDR, BDR space, as you know.
Yeah,
But it sounds like your take is this is not a panacea. This is not a just kind of turn it on and set it and forget it.
I don't know.
But for so if you've got bad garbage going in, you're going to get garbage going out. But if used properly, there's a potential for them to have a positive impact.
100%. If used properly, there's a good potential. And the reality is, and we've all heard these analogies before, is it as good as a human?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, if I've got absolutely the top 1% or 2 or 3%, use whatever number you want, of sales reps, probably not.
Uh-huh.
Probably not. Is it as good as the bottom 50%? Hell yes. Probably significantly better.
Yep.
And so look at your team. If you've got 100% people who are crushing it, okay, don't go trying an AI tool. Feel free. Like, I wish I was in your position where everyone was absolutely crushing it and blowing quota out of it. We know that's not happening for 99% of companies.
Right.
So take a look, see where you can improve, see where you can optimize, and test these tools. That's
Uh-huh.
all I'm saying. I'm not saying go replace anyone. I'm saying you're crazy if you don't test and try to improve.
Yeah, I read something recently where somebody was taking a look at for medical diagnoses, and the if the AI was just given the raw data and left alone, it way outperformed the humans on their own, but also outperformed the humans prompting the AI. So there's some part of it which is just kind of a like, okay, let me go make my own conclusions. And I do think it is one of those things that we're so used to. We've adapted so quickly as humans to testing things like ChatGPT, where we're like, oh, it's hallucinating less and less over time, and so it's just kind of like it's going to go give me the right answer, and it's not. It's gonna, it's gonna do its best, and but it's the question is it better than the alternative?
Of course. And just from a numbers perspective, I mean, we've all heard, let's just use cold email as an example. Now,
Mhm.
AI SDR tools aren't only for cold email. You
Huh?
could import a warm account list that you've had and there's all kinds of things you can do. Everyone just
Right,
automatically assumes it's cold spam cannon, and it's not.
right,
Um, but we've all heard the numbers out there where, and I'm generalizing, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but cold outbound used to be like 10% response rate years ago, and now it's like 1% on average.
uh-huh,
Well, I could get I'm getting 1 to 3% depending on a campaign I'm running using some of these tools.
right,
So, you know, my experience so far is it's about the same, give or take, as the average cold outreach campaign,
yep,
right? But it saves me hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I could say hours 1,000 times, and
yep,
cost versus people doing,
right,
right? If I'm getting the same results, never mind better, if I'm getting the same results, why the hell wouldn't I run that at a fraction of the cost?
right.
Um, for me, I get the people to jump in though. So if the AI sends the initial email and it gets a response, I'm still of the mindset so far these days, that's where I get my human to jump in and take over. So
Got
I'm
it.
not letting the AI. It depends on the company. Every company's different, and the product and all the nuances of that. But I'm just using it right now with some of my clients from an initial outreach perspective.
Besides AI SDRs, what are some of the other AI technologies that have intersected with the revenue org that you're interested or excited about?
I guess a lot of the basic things. I want to start getting into some of the things that like people like Kyle Norton and others I've been reading so much about using Avaro and different tools.
Mhm.
to help with coaching and training and onboarding. So I'm just starting to get into that space a little bit more. I'm probably behind. Well, I'm
Mhm.
definitely behind some people and maybe ahead of others. But that's an area. And then, the standard part of using tools like custom GBTs and chat GBT in general to optimize so many different things, even from a recruiting perspective. So back to the recruiting example, had 300 resumes for a job I was hiring for. I downloaded every resume, took me a couple minutes because LinkedIn doesn't make that easy.
Mhm.
Um, and I put them all in ChatGPT. And I said, here's what I'm looking for. Do an analysis for me. Give me a list and score it in the following way on these pros and cons. And of course, that took me maybe 10 minutes to do all that. And then I had this incredible analysis. And it allowed me, and this is the reality of the world we're in, right? Whether we like it or not, it allowed me to spend that now time focused on the top 10 or 15
Right.
people ranked as opposed to having to go through every resume. Again, small business. We're not hiring a big recruiter. I can't, they don't, some of my clients don't do that. But I'm here to help in the best way I can and as efficiently as possible. And so something as simple as that was incredibly valuable to allow us to be more efficient and arguably caught things that maybe I wouldn't have caught when I'm looking at the 200th and 20th resume in a day. So I think it's more accurate than I would have been as well. So it's a very simple example, but incredibly time saving and effective.
Yeah, I think the most important thing I talk to my team and try to, act on myself is just keep trying things, like,
Yeah.
I'm a huge Perplexity fan, and, voice
Yeah.
mode in Perplexity in the car is amazing. Like, I go and I don't I my podcast time, I shouldn't say this as a podcaster, but my podcast time is actually down because I am engaging in conversations and just having a bunch of questions back and forth with Perplexity on the drives,
It's
and,
unreal.
just amazing to do that kind of stuff. And I think again, like someone described this as, and this comes back to your AI SDR example, you should just assume like today is the worst it will ever be, right? The models are the worst they will ever be. The AI is the worst it's ever going to be. And so if you're kind of on the bleeding edge, like this kind of works, but it doesn't quite, and you're saying, like in the AI SDR case, your experiences, it's kind of like equivalent to a human right now.
Yeah.
It's the worst it's ever gonna be. It's just gonna get better from so you're just kinda riding that wave.
It is. I mean, again, in the meeting this morning I had with someone, we were looking at it, the emails coming out of the tool, and we looked at like 10 emails that the AI generated. And he looked at one or two of them and he was like, I don't love that one. I'm like, me neither. And I said, respectfully, I saw your emails last week. There was a couple I didn't love either. And he's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
And I said that with a laugh and we had fun about it. But again, it's to your point, it's not perfect, not every single one. But
yeah,
I created those emails in 3 seconds, instead of hours and hours and hours of research to get generally the same result.
right.
Right.
Right. And like, we do that in coffee. We generate, follow-up emails from, the call transcripts that you have. So like, and for me, I'm bad at follow-up. I realize
Right.
there's things I'm good at, there's things I'm bad at. And for me, kind of keeping track of to-dos and stuff like that. So in a lot of ways, what we built at coffee is kind of my obsession with helping myself out. But that ability to just walk in and again, it's not going to get it right every single time,
Yeah.
but it's much easier to say, let me go edit that a couple parts of that email and then send it, than create them all from scratch. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's a great example, Doug. If you're not strong in follow ups, it's way better to get a 7 out of 10 follow up than no follow up at all.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
let's walk before we run here, right? People like everyone wants to get better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I find, like, and again, even just like we did an extensive evaluation. We had, like, Richard White from Fathom was on the show, and they've got a great call recorder, but there's a bake off of, like, 22 of these things recently. So we've spent a lot of time kind of evaluating all these and what do we like in terms of summaries and follow-up action items, and I don't think anything's nailed it perfectly.
Yeah.
So we're still a believer of this kind of human in the loop on that kind of stuff. To your
Yeah.
point, like, you might, you know, create a draft or you might do the first email out, but at some point there's engagement and now I'm going to go bring a human into that thing. And for us, so like with action items, we say like, I don't think anybody's nailed action items for me, but, like, if you give me 5 action items and I say, "Oh, yeah, those 2 are pretty good. I'm gonna add those to my list." That's much better than me remembering after every
Sure.
single meeting, what was the to-dos that
For
I had.
sure. And let's also keep in mind, that perfection is a matter of freaking opinion,
Right. Right.
right? Like the 2 emails in my analogy this morning that I didn't think were good, well, maybe Doug would have looked at those and said, "They're pretty damn good, Neil. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Which one of us is right?" I don't know. Let's test send it and see if we get a response. That's the only way to know.
Only way to
And
know.
and
Yeah.
so that's the reality with everyone's opinion out there is it's just opinions.
Yeah.
Nobody knows for sure what works and what not until you do it. Every ICP is different. Every persona is different. Every product is different. The talking heads of listen to me because I've done it before, best practices is just bullshit.
Yeah.
You got to test and learn for yourself in order to find out what works.
Let's pull on that thread for a minute. Let's talk about failure. So, whether you want to draw from a unnamed company example here or your own experience, I'm fine either way. But kind of like, when you've seen some, I'm sure, tremendous successes and spectacular failures and the whole range in between,
Sure.
what has been kind of a failure that you really learned from personally?
A company I've worked with in the past, I'm not sure I would call it failure so much as real big disappointment for
Okay.
me, which might be one and the same thing.
Mhm.
Except I think if you ask them, they would say, "No, everything's great. This is wonderful." But for me, it's a failure because while I feel like I've made with all the recommendations and strategies and improvements and things that I've done with this company, and it's been incredible learning. I don't feel like I have been able to change their organization fundamentally
Mm.
in a way that when I'm gone, it's going to be much different.
Got it.
Meaning lots of little improvements, but this is an example where I don't think I broke through that change management piece
Uh-huh.
like I had hoped. I have not broken through the change management. The folks that I'm referring to are still the same people they were when I got there, and that's not an insult in any way. They're some of the most incredible team and people I've ever met in my life, but we all have weaknesses,
Mhm.
and the weaknesses that I was working to improve for them, both in their styles of leadership and the impact it had on the company, have not changed, irrelevant of my attempt.
Got it.
And so for me, that's a personal failure because I want to leave every company better off
Uh-huh.
than when I got there. Of course, if I didn't do that, that's a big problem, of course.
Yep.
And while they would say, "Oh my God, Neil, you did this and this and this, and we got more money and we got more clients, and this is great." But I know when I'm gone, it's going to go back to what it was. And that's a failure for me. And I'm not happy about that. But again, I can't, you can't win them all. There's only so much you can do. And maybe I need to learn to do certain things better. But that would be, I know I'm being very generic. Like I'm probably not doing a good job answering the question because I
No, no,
just,
no, this is good, this is good. Let me ask about, you mentioned up front, on in the case of ports, you're doing it with your son,
yeah,
which I think is very cool. My kids, I couldn't get them into sailing or tech, but they're all doing fantastic stuff on their own. But tell us a little bit, like, what that's like as a dad and as, how long you've been doing it and kind of what it's like, going to work with your offspring. Mm,
yeah. Thank you for asking that. I would be the guy, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I would have been the guy, Doug, that would say, "Don't ever work with your family." Like,
mhm,
my God, don't lend money to your family, don't work with your family. And I would have said that. I'm sure I've said it over the years. Like, "Oh my
mhm,
God, you're working with your husband or wife or whatever, you're nuts." Like, that's crazy. And now I would say the exact opposite. And now I would say, if you have an opportunity to do it, you're crazy not to take that opportunity.
mhm,
It is the most special thing in the world. Um, I'd say, if I guess, a couple comments. One is every partnership, real partnership, as we all know, is tough, no matter what.
mhm,
Right? You can meet a co-founder anywhere and become your co-founder, and you're going to have great times and tough times, and you're going to argue, and you're going to love each other, and you're going to hate each other.
yep,
That's just what it is. This is no different.
Mhm.
right? We have good times, we have bad times, we argue, we fight. But at the end of the day, we trust each other more than anyone could ever trust each other. We love each other deeply. Um, it's just very, 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 very special. And to see how, which is an honor that my son actually listens to me at times and respects me, which he doesn't do in regular life, but in business he does. Um, and to see him do what he does, and to be so proud of him is it's unbelievable. And he is the best co-founder ever. Like, I don't care who you put in front of me, I wouldn't trade him for anyone.
That's
Sure.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah. It's really, really, really cool and really, really special. And it it doubles as a great story from a branding and marketing perspective. So a lot of people ask us about it. It's really, really cool. And Porch, as we said before, it's a mission based business.
Right.
So the fact that kind of my family's involved in that makes it even more special.
Right.
Um, we're just trying to break even on that business, to be very direct with you. It's very mission based. We just need it to be self sustainable. So hopefully it can continue helping international and immigrant entrepreneurs when we are gone. Um, but it's not trying to make millions of dollars. It's not that type of business.
Right.
But together we have learned so much. And he's only 24. For him to begin his career doing something like this, he is and wants to be an entrepreneur forever and ever. So whether or not Porch lasts for another year or 20 years, he'll be a founder of something else next.
Yep.
And the journey that he has been on and learning as we've built Porch has been unbelievable. So, I can't imagine him getting better learning at his age, working for anyone in a corporate world. Not that I disagree with corporate learning. I
Yeah.
grew up in corporate. I'd like him to do that too, so he can learn all about the different type of, career learning that's very important, I think. Um, but yeah, I could ramble on forever about that. It's very special.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. I had told my kids that, like, if they ever wanted to start a business, and told me they wanted to go to business school, I'd just write them a check for that instead and just say, "Go start whatever business you want because you will drink from the fire hose. You will learn so much more doing this on your own than
Yeah,
you would in some kind of hypothetical
for
academic
sure.
environment."
Yeah, he gets. I mean, listen, he's 24. When he was doing this when he was 22, he
Mhm.
got out of school and he's on like you're a senior exec, Doug. He could get on a call with you and hold his own and talk and
It's awesome.
tell you about Porch and negotiate with you. Like that's pretty impressive. I'm pretty proud of that. He's learned how to do that. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I know we're coming up on time, so let me just do a few questions for you here. So, we're all crazy busy. What do you do to unplug? What do you do for fun?
I'm terrible at this because I'm like a workaholic, um, which I love it. I love it. I'm constantly, quote unquote, working. It doesn't feel like work to me.
Mhm.
I'm like the opposite. Like if I don't work, I get stressed out because I feel like there's things I need to do. And so I actually kind of chill out by just sitting in front of my computer and learning and reading and checking things out. So that would be my first comment, which is not what you were looking for. And then the second one is I do listen to a lot of audiobooks. Trying to walk a lot more now, and I'm trying to listen to audiobooks. I'm like a John Grisham and Stephen King fanatic.
Nice.
Like just garbage stuff that is keeps my mind off of anything overly important. Um, and I get caught up in a lot of the new TV series that are on these days, like
Uh,
Mobland and Succession, and
Mopland is awesome.
loving that stuff, loving
That's
that
great.
stuff. But I get into that stuff just to wind down a little bit.
It's interesting how many times just being in nature, outside, walking has come up to that question in this podcast, and I'm trying to do that myself, and it is one of those things where even if I, before I, because I we work remotely, uh, even if I just go throw in the AirPods and do a 15-minute walk around the neighborhood before I have lunch, it just is kind of it's day changing in terms of,
100%.
vitamin D and just kinda getting out there and doing that stuff, so I love
Yeah,
that.
100%, 100%.
Let's get outside of tech for a second, even just like in your personal
Sure.
life or whatever. What's a product that you just really love and why?
So this is like a virtual, I forget the name of it,
Asteroids. Yeah,
Ti
or the
Tidbit or Tidbit, I think it's called.
oh, yeah, the light bright or whatever it was, right?
Yeah,
That
it's like a light bright thing. It
yeah,
changes. It's a great conversation piece. It comes with an app, and you could change it to. It's probably hard to see, but you can change
No,
it to anything you want. Stock prices, famous quotes, weather. There's like 1,000 different things that will rotate on the screen.
nice.
So I'm constantly looking at my stock quotes on it as it's going and stuff, and it's just a great conversation piece. I buy them for gifts for people now because they're kind of like unique and knowing, most people don't know what the heck they are. And they're like, oh, what? This is super cool. Um,
Very cool.
that's the first thing I came up with, Doug. It's not a great answer.
No, no, no. That's unique and fun. I mean, like I'm just always like, something that you enjoy and something that you would share with others. That fits the bill perfectly. So thank you.
Oh.
And then just finally, how can our listeners kind of stay in touch with you and help you on your mission with what you're trying to achieve?
I'm on LinkedIn. Thank you for the question. My website is weitzmangtm.com. Again, really focused on the execution as a fractional CRO. Happy to talk to anyone. Love what I do. Very, very passionate about it. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn, and I probably spend too much time there, but I love it, and I learn a lot, and I meet great people. And I'm also excited to learn more, Doug, about what you're doing as well with coffee. I know you and I, just before we started the podcast, I said, teach me more. I want to learn more about it. So, congratulations to you with coffee. And I can't wait to learn more and see if I can find a way to bring it into some of my clients or even use it myself with Porch.
Thank you. Well, I think by the time this episode airs, we'll actually be live, so you'll actually
Awesome.
our listeners will actually be able to go to the coffee.ai website and figure out what the hell it is that we do. So,
Fantastic.
thank you
I'll
for
go
that.
there too.
Yeah. All right. Well, Neil, thank you again for the time. Great chatting with you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate you having me.